Many people wonder, what are ketones and how do ketones work? Well, the easiest way to think of ketones is that they're a breakdown product of the fat that we have on our bodies. So the longer answer is that normally when we're on a typical Western diet that's high in carbohydrate and low in fat, we are not making ketones. And we are using glucose as the primary fuel for our brain and other organs in the body. So if we start fasting or starving, after about 36 to 48 hours, we tend to use up the glucose that is stored in our bodies. And if we did not have fat, we would start breaking down muscle to release proteins with some amino acids that can be converted to glucose that our brain and other organs could use as fuel. But we would not last very long if we only had muscle to work with, maybe 7 to 10 days. However, we have fat. Most of us do. And when we are having plenty of food to eat, we tend to store extra fat. And when we are in a situation of fasting or starvation, and we've used up all the glucose stored in our body, we will start breaking down fat. And some of the fatty acids from the fat then are used by the other organs of the body, such as the heart and muscles and the liver, as a fuel in place of glucose. However, these larger fatty acids don't cross very well through the blood-brain barrier, and therefore are not a great source of fuel for the brain. Well, the brain is very active. It uses about 20 to 25% of the calories that we eat every day. And so the brain needs another source of fuel. So some of the fatty acids from the breakdown of fat are taken to the liver, where they are further broken down into ketones. Ketones are very small molecules. There are 3 of them. Beta hydroxybutyrate is the main ketone, acetoacetate, which can convert to beta hydroxybutyrate, and also acetone, which we mostly exhale, and that accounts for the fruity breath that we have if we're in ketosis. So ketones are small molecules that very easily cross into the blood-brain barrier, into the brain, and are then used by brain cells as a fuel. And the brain can very easily and quickly switch over from using glucose to using ketones. Of great interest to people who are suffering from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and some other diseases, recent studies have shown ketone and glucose PET scans that in Alzheimer's disease and in people with mild cognitive impairment and in aging adults, that the brain takes up ketones normally in the same areas that the brain does not take up glucose normally. This is a big problem in Alzheimer's disease, where glucose is not taken up normally into certain areas of the brain. But ketones are taken up normally. That's phenomenal news, because it helps support the idea that increasing our ketone levels could potentially help people with Alzheimer's. And if it's adopted as a strategy, a long-term strategy earlier in life, might even be able to prevent the development of memory impairment as we age, and possibly even Alzheimer's disease. There are studies going on right now to look at that. The studies do suggest and support right now that using MCT oil, medium chain triglyceride oil, in people with mild cognitive impairment actually does increase the supply of energy to the brain as ketones, and also are showing some cognitive improvements in people that are taking 30 mLs, which is 2 tablespoons a day, with suggestion that more may be even better. So this is basically where ketones come from. And in another video, I will talk more about other effects of ketones and what they do.